So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. I'm honored to start off this webinar as a joint venture of ITS Finland and ITS Netherlands Connect. I'm Marije de Nijs, the community manager of the Smart Mobility Embassy, the international label of Connect. And today I'm your moderator, and Alex, which you probably can see on your left upper right, is our supervisor and doing all the technical stuff. So for beginning, just want to ensure that to having is a webinar, please mute your microphone to minimum background noises and distractions. And if you have a questions, please put it in the chat. And we will be sending out one poll, and Alex and either the speakers will answer your questions in the chat. And if they're left unanswered, we'll try to do it after each presentation. We're a little short on time, so thank you for this attention, and let's get started. And before I forget, if you want to have a link with other people who are attending this webinar, please leave your LinkedIn address so we can share the addresses. So first of all, I want to introduce Max. He's my colleague from Connect. He's the Senior Project Manager and Lead Data and Digitization, and he will be sharing an overview on AI in the Netherlands. Max, when you are ready for your presentation, you can begin.
Yes, thank you, Marije. Let me share my screen. Just checking if everyone can see the screen, the slide. Yes. So also and good morning, everyone. Thank you, Marije, for the brief introduction, and the opportunity to briefly also introduce today's webinar on artificial intelligence. So my name is Max Schreuder. I'm the lead of digitalization and the data initiatives at Connect. And before we delve into specific use cases, Marije asked me to share some of my insights on AI from our perspective. And I'll be doing that along the lines of three areas: policy, strategy, and applications. I'll keep it brief because I think the most interesting part will be in the use cases and applications. So moving to the next slide. So from the policy perspective, I think the policy in our sector, well, and also other sectors, is a crucial foundation. I've from recent research from others, TNO and VTT and RISE, they created this policy landscape. I'd like to briefly address some of the EU level initiatives. In particularly, they focus on data sharing, and I think that's pivotal for let's say artificial intelligence. So a lot of artificial intelligence applications, they just require huge amounts of data. So on an EU level, that's the Digital Europe program. I think a lot of you are familiar with that. The Data Governance Act, the Data Act, are all part of that program, and recently the AI Act. And so from that's on the EU level. From the Netherlands perspective, we have the Netherlands or the Dutch AI Coalition. And we have the top sector innovations, and we are currently managing the top sector logistics program. And on the digitalization policies, we are involved, and we're in contact with the Ministry of Economic Affairs on digitalization, or the strategy of a digital economy, and things like the basic data infrastructure. Those are not particularly focused on AI, but they are focused on making data available. So from a strategy perspective, and I'm quoting the same report as from the last slide. So there's recent research from TNO, VTT, and RISE, and they highlight some of the key differences between Netherlands and Finland. And so while both countries are challenging or facing challenges in bridging the gap between the research and industry, there's two differences where Finland's approach is more on integrating AI into, let's say, commercial and industrial landscape. It's less on fundamental research. And the Dutch approach is more a balance between AI research on a fundamental level, as well as practical applications. And so this is a more mixed approach. So from an economic perspective, so we had policy, strategy, and economic perspective. So we all know the hype of generative AI and ChatGPT. So only on that application of the potential of generative AI. McKinsey estimates for the travel, transport, and logistics sector is, let's say, an impact of between 180 and 300 billion US dollars. So that's only on generative AI. So the scope of AI applications is much broader, and I see the areas and the particular opportunities relevant for our sector are include what I mentioned here on the slide, but it's include decision support, traffic flow optimization, cooperative mobility in logistics. If you think of self-organizing logistics, predictive maintenance, shared smart vehicles, self-driving vehicles, and on the sustainable mobility side, think of self-learning energy management systems, for instance, for smart charging. So that's a very brief introduction on a policy, strategic, and economic level, and I think we should keep this in mind when we look at further presentations on the applications and the use cases. So that's it from my part of the introduction. If you have any questions or want to follow up, my contact details are in the slide, and I think the slides and presentations will be shared afterwards.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah.
Max.
Okay, so that's within 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah, that was yeah, that was great, and thank you for sharing these insights on AI in the Netherlands.
Perfect. Okay, well, hi guys, thanks for having us. Thanks for having us present to you guys. My name is Boen Groothoff. I'm the product owner of Smart Mobility at the City of Amsterdam. And today I'll be speaking with my colleague Fishroot, who's a data scientist in my team. And we'll telling you a little bit about how we use data for urban mobility in Amsterdam. We're going to the next slide. Yeah. Today we'll be telling a little bit about the challenges that we are facing as a city in the mobility domain. And then I'm going to be talking a little bit about how we're using the data in a strategic manner to improve mobility. I mentioned strategic specifically because we also use it more operationally, which is more about real-time management of the mobility flows. And we also use it tactically, more anticipating to problems that might arise in the mobility sector. But what I'm going to talk about is strategically. How can we have a more permanent improvement of the mobility in Amsterdam? And after that, Fishwood is going to tell a bit more about how we use machine learning and other types of AI in this field. So we have a battle for space in Amsterdam, but that's not really this space. It's this space, and this space, and this. And of course this. So this might look very familiar to a lot of you because most cities are facing these problems where cities are growing because of urbanization, and it's just getting a lot more crowded. So for Amsterdam, for instance, we expect that in 2050 we'll have 28% more inhabitants. But that doesn't mean that the city is growing geographically as much. So that means we're becoming denser, and actually we have to make do with less space per person, and that just squeezes our public space. So what we're thinking is how can we rethink the way we are managing mobility overall. So where in the past we've always facilitated everything. Everything should be possible. We should have more mobility. It should be faster and it should be more efficient. And what we're seeing now is that that's just reaching its limits. So we have to set boundaries. Of course, we have an ecological boundary. How much space do we have? How much carbon can we emit? How much materials should we use or allocate to this? But then there's also the social boundary of course, making sure that people have keep having access to mobility, regardless of the size of your wallet or your physical abilities. And then the last border is more the visibility boundary. So is this actually something we can achieve? Do we have the money, the resources, and also the political will to have these changes that we want? And that's actually transforming the whole playing field of how we manage mobility. So we take lots of measures. We close off streets for cars. We raise the parking prices. We make some streets bicycle friendly and car unfriendly. And we, of course, provide alternatives to shared mobility. But the question is, how effective are these measures? And how do we even decide which measures to take? So that's actually what I want to be talking about with you, how we use data for that. Problem, of course, comes from this guy, the car. We were always car focused. Not only did we allow the car to be everywhere, we also see the car everywhere, and not only in the street, but also in our data. And that means also we don't really look at how to facilitate the alternative. So if we really want to make sure that people use alternatives to the car, we should also gather data from that. And we have started multiple projects on that. So we have new bike counters. We have developed our own computer vision algorithm that can count people with all the cameras that we have in the city. And we're using different mobile apps that provide us an anonymous data stream of how many pedestrians are in a certain area. And this gives us a more multi-model view of what's actually happening. And then we can have a look at the measures that we're taking and see how effective they are. So this is the center of Amsterdam, and this is the main road going through the city center. This is the busiest road that we have in Amsterdam. It's not really a highway, but it is a very busy road. And what our alderman did last summer is she closed off this part. So if we look in the data, then we can see what happens. Well, no surprise there. Most locations right around this area have decreased car usage. So you see also the green cars is where there's a little increase in car usage. So we also see how people are traveling around and creating other problems. But this was, of course, quite expected. What we actually want to know is, are people actually going to use other modes of transportation? So here we can see the public transport stations around this area, and we see that there's definitely an increase in the usage of that. We can also see in bicycle things, that bicycle data, that people have been actually changing their routes. So right next to the canal, there's a big right next to the river, there's a big cycling lane that has a decrease in bicycle traffic, where people decided to use this big street because there were no cars. And this really shows us, okay, we need to have a look at how people change their mobility behavior. Yeah, here we are. So we see the change in mobility behavior here. But of course, we also need to make sure that we can see what impacts do the weather have, what impacts do events have, and what impacts do construction have, because they might also explain a difference in behavior. And what we want to know, of course, is what is the effect of the measure itself. But then again, if you have all this data in there and you use AI technologies, then you can also rethink how you do policy altogether. So think everyone knows how ChatGPT or Midjourney works. You actually ask it, I want to have this result. Can you provide that for me? So if you look at mobility, you could also, instead of saying, do a simulation on what will happen if we close off the street, we could tell the model, can you show us how to get to a situation where we have this percentage fewer cars, this percentage more bike traffic, or this percentage changed behavior otherwise? And then the AI can just use all the data about the measures and the effects it had in the past and come up with different policies. And that's what we call policy on the menu. So just generate a menu of possible options to get to this policy goal that we have. And what AI can also do is actually show what it will look like. So this is a website that different company in the Netherlands made, and you can actually just give it a location. It will look up a picture from Google Maps, and then will show how it could look, what it could look like if it were pedestrian friendly, if it were more green. Well, you can of course see that you can extend on that to make it look like anything you want. So you can have people design their own streets and actually show them the benefit. So rather than telling people you cannot drive your car anymore, you can show them this is what your street can look like. What do you want your street to look like? Do you want to have a terrace there? Do you want to have a place where your children can play? And then you change the whole conversation on how to make policy. This is another example. So this is in Madrid, and it's on the left you see the original picture of the street, what it is right now, and it just generates alternatives for you. And this the importance is that we change the conversation about what is not possible anymore and change it to the benefit that people actually can experience. So do you want to have a green street? Also, instead of you cannot fly anymore, tell people how great it is to actually take the train. I made this presentation on my way to Barcelona, and yeah, it was great. We slept in the train, we had fun in the train, and I had time to make this presentation, which is a lot better than standing in line for the airport. So that's the way how we want to change the way we make policy. And now Fishhood is going to go a bit further into how we use AI in a technical sense.
Yes, thank you, Boon. So I work as a data scientist within the smart mobility team, along with two other data scientists and Boon. What I'm going to try to do is generally explain what our approach towards AI is going to be, and also explain what we've been doing with some machine learning models. Yeah, so getting to my part, we've largely focused on developing these supervised machine learning models, which, for example, look at crowdedness predictions. But increasingly, we are also looking at how we can develop unsupervised models for policy goals. And as most of you already probably know, AI is a fairly broad field. Machine learning is a subfield within AI. We also have natural language processing, computer vision, robotics. And I'm going to talk about an example from machine learning today and an example from computer vision. But before that, maybe it's just good to emphasize that the AI progress is unlikely to slow down. We live in the era of ChatGPT, and this has been made possible by better computing resources, but also better algorithms, which has actually accelerated the growth of AI. AI has been around for a while, but what's happening now is the presence of better computing power, which has brought it to the forefront again. I'm going to talk about one of the machine learning models that we've developed. So the traffic management department from the city came to us with a question: can we better prepare for busy moments in the shopping streets and at the red light district in Amsterdam. These are fairly busy parts of the city, especially during tourist seasons. And our idea was to build a machine learning model which can predict how crowded it will get on different days, different times, and also where. And this would eventually help better manage crowds. Slides don't change. Yeah, how did we go about it? The first is that we needed good quality data. We needed data infrastructure, computing resources to model the data, find a model fit, model the data, and actually be able to predict. But we also had to operationalize. Now, this is important to really keep testing if the model is still serving its purpose. I'm going to zoom into data here. I think that's the more interesting part for today. What we had is data from the crowd monitoring system of Amsterdam. So these are sensors that are located along the shopping streets and the red light district. You get an input image, and in a very privacy-proof manner, it's able to give you the sum of people in a certain area. So this was our this was our data set that we capitalized on for building the machine learning model. We also had some context data such as the weather, holidays, and COVID measures. Going further, there were two handling perspectives for this model. One was from the traffic management, but the other was also the residents of the cities and the visitors of the city. So on the left, what you see is these graphs and the expected peaks at different points in time. So you have the total number of people expected across the different weeks, and you also have the expected peaks. Now, what this helps is that there can be hosts placed in the different shopping streets, and you can really allocate your resources better to manage crowds. And on the right, what you see is a web app that we developed. It's called Rook to Build. The focus of this was to offer residents a view on where is it getting busy and when is it getting busy, so that they could probably better plan their plan their travel. Further, we have the evaluation of the model. So this is related to the operationalizing a bit. So once we do build a model, we want to make sure that it serves its purpose. So we constantly check how well it's performing. So we compare it to the actual counts. So you can see on the right, there are graphs which show the predicted in the light green and the actual counts in the dark green. And we also have a confusion matrix, which is able to show at what points did it correctly predict how busy it was. So we had these different levels of crowdedness, was not busy, busy, and very busy. And we wanted to really see if the model is able to actually predict these different crowd levels accurately. This relates again to the operationalizing of the model. Some learnings, I think this is important, and as we get into further complex models, what we've learned is data is not perfect. There's an effect of measures. So for example, you can think of COVID measures, which could influence the data, but you could also think of some measures, for example, at the street, when the crowd's being managed, no one's really taking a note of the dispersion of crowd in a certain area, and as a result you have a peak, and then the crowd all of a sudden, the crowd numbers all of a sudden fall down. So these are measures that are not really reflected in the data. These are reflected in the data, but we do not have an extra context data for this. Data can be incomplete, sensors can go down, sensors stop working, there can be changes in the sensors, you all of a sudden have a more accurate sensor, and then the previous data is not as useful anymore. And what we also experience is that it's important to explain what the model can do for the different stakeholders. These models are seldom crystal balls. They cannot tell you everything. For example, if you want to predict how busy it'll be on a Black Friday evening, we need to also bring other context data into picture. For example, the weather. It could be a sunny Black Friday in 2022, but it could be a rainy Black Friday in 2023. And we can only predict with what's available. And again, weather is one of the most important context factors when you're predicting crowdedness. Now I'm going to talk about another example of a computer vision project that we did. So the city of Amsterdam has been testing dynamic speed limits across, in parts of the city. And the idea was that different participants would download an app, and they would get pings on the recommended speed that they're supposed to drive. And what we wanted to try and understand is how well can they adhere to these different speeds. And now there was a qualitative research done where questions were asked about how they felt about the app, what did they feel about the notifications, and could they actually follow these different speed limits. And we took care of a more quantitative aspect of it. So we had these anonymous screen recordings. What you see on the right are the screenshots from the experiment, which show the speed that they're driving on, and the colors indicate whether they're actually following the speed limit or not. We built a very simple computer vision model which could read all the speed from about 28 participants, and the average size of a video was about 45 minutes. And then we plotted all of it in a speed time graph. And as a result, we had some more insights on how the participant actually behaved when they cycled during the experiment. This was a very simple way of leveraging computer vision for our policy goals. And what we learned is that it was difficult for participants to follow a lower speed limit. So for example, the school zone, which was a defined zone in the experiment with a speed limit of 10 kilometers per hour, was something that participants found very hard to stick to. And the larger zones showed more adherence. So when they had time to adjust their speeds, they could actually keep their speed limit under check. Lastly, what are we doing right now? We're trying to understand the impact of policy instruments through AI. One thing that we're working on right now is accessibility. So, for example, identify patterns and gaps in travel routes. But we also want to offer users from different backgrounds, for example, the handicapped users, how they can reach from A to B in a more efficient manner using AI. This could mean in terms of this could mean a wider footpath that is useful for them, and how we could use that as a ways to optimize and give them a suggestion on the route that they could take. And we also want to be able to predict the impacts of different measures. Now, Boone had just mentioned about the one of the major roads being closed down, and we want to be able to also predict what the effects of such measures will be, and the increase in the different modalities as a result of these measures. Lastly, I'm going to leave you with this slide. Boone mentioned that there's a battle for space, and we are going to work with satellite data early next year and try to leverage that for mobility as well in the city. That was it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Boone and Fishwood, for this excellent presentation and your willingness to do this on your phone. So thanks very much, and sharing your insights, not only on data-driven mobility, but the thing is rethinking the policy, and the policy menu is a very interesting one. And the battle for space, we will have to invite you to a new webinar like in a year or so. So thanks very much. There are no questions in the chat yet. I wish you lots of luck on your training today, and I hope one of you is still able to follow the end of this webinar, just in case. And if I don't speak to you wish you lots of luck, and thanks again. And now we have the bridge again to René. So I hope the presentation of things that works. Bye, Ruud, bye, Boone. Let's try it again, René. So on your presentation.
Let's try it again.
Let's try it again. Yeah.
See if it works. If I now have permission to share it. I think it works.
Wow.
Marije.
Thanks. Okay, I will give you the floor, René.
Yeah, thanks, Marije. It was a bit last minute, but I'm happy to be here. And I'm going to tell you a bit about a use case we are currently have operational on that one. So I'm not going to tell you anything about techniques. So sorry for that, but I'm going to tell you a bit about our use case, getting to realistic driving times. Because in logistics, it's always good to have the most realistic driving times in your planning and in execution monitoring. I'm René Bruyne. I work at Simacan. I'm a business director, business development director. So that's what I do. A bit on Simacan. Just to give you an idea, we have over 50 people, mainly developers, working in Amersfoort, and we have an execution management platform for logistics. So we are not in the planning, we are only in the execution when trucks are on the road or vans are on the road. Some of our customers are the big retailers in the Netherlands, supermarkets like Jumbo, Albert Heijn, Spar, those kinds of companies, but also the parcel companies like PostNL and DHL. And one of our oldest companies we provide with the traffic informations is the ANWB, the touring club in the Netherlands. And I think this has also an effect on what I'm going to tell you on how we predict the realistic driving times. So these are our customers, and they use the platform for execution monitoring. But first, it's something on driving times. Driving times is something completely different than, I would say, traveling times. Because if a truck departs from a distribution center, he first has to pick up the loads. He has to pick up his way bill. There are a lot of times going on the distribution center, and driving times, it starts when the engine of a truck starts, and then he goes on his way. And we do this only for trucks and for vans, which have a specific route and have a specific profile for speeds. If you enter into a traffic jam with a person and with a normal car, you have a higher average speeds than, for instance, the trucks, because the trucks are always on the right lane, which is mainly the slowest lane within congestions. And the driving time ends when you enter the geolocation of the supermarket or the distribution center. So we are only talking about driving time prediction. And as you all know, driving times are well, they do fluctuate on the day. And as I told you, the ANWB, which is a customer of us, we already have over more than 10 years of all the traffic information of the roads in Europe. For every single road in Europe, we know what the driving speed is, let's say on a Tuesday on 10 o'clock. So we have all this data, and with our algorithms, where we use a lot of AI, we can do a prediction of what the travel time will be along the way. I would love to emphasize. So not from the starting point, but we know what the traffic, what the average speeds will be along the way. So we make we calculate, we do a prediction of the traffic times. But there are also seasonal factors. We are now entering into the Christmas period. It's now 5 December. It's still very crowded on the roads. But as we enter Christmas, you will see a drop down in those in the traffic intensity. And in the Netherlands, we also have various vacation periods. The one region has another vacation period than the other region. So based on that, based on what we know the vacation periods will be, we adjust. We know what the traffic times also will be if you enter from the north to the middle along those highways. And I don't know if I already told you this, but the trucks and the vans we monitor, they have a different speed profile and a different profile. They drive through other roads, and they have a different average speeds than a normal car. And this goes also for the seasonal factors. It's a bit the same as in Amsterdam. We also have construction works or road works in our system, so that we also can do the calculation, take into account what kind of construction works there are, and if this has an effect on the driving at times. For instance, I live in the north of the Netherlands, where a bridge is now prohibited for trucks. So we calculate a different route, but you will also see that construction works or road works will also have an effect on the prediction of the travel times. So we also calculate that in our algorithms. We are also able to do what I call time traveling. So you can also ask to our system, what will be the travel time, let's say the 4th of March in 2024, if I go from Zwolle to Groningen. You can do this both forward as backward for, let's say, your strategic or your tactical planning to see what kind of effect does it have on my operation in this period. And where we are still working on, that's what is now on our roadmap as we speak. It goes in the next increment, is taking into account the zero emission zones. Because if you have a diesel truck, you can't enter Amsterdam anymore. So you have to go around it if you have deliveries, for instance, in Purmerend or in other areas. We take also in account, that's what we also work on, is the weather forecast. Because you see that weather forecast also has a tremendous effect on the congestion, and we have on our roadmap to do this also with toll, dynamic toll, and we are also looking into what I call events. If Ajax plays in Amsterdam, and it's let's say a Euro Cup. And then there will be a lot of congestion around the south of Amsterdam, and we will also take that into account. So working with these kind of techniques gives us the ability to have precise and realistic driving times, instead of also doing in your planning a lot of slack, to give. I think it's very good that we have precise and realistic driving times instead of too short driving times for those drivers. Well, that's what we are doing. And I stop sharing now. That's where we use AI in our platform. That's what I would love to explain to you.
Thanks, René, for your presentation and for pitching in. So happy that your presentation finally worked. Sometimes technology is not on our side. Looking forward to the roadmap on zero emissions, on tools and on weather. And again, this should be like a next webinar thing as well. So thanks very much. And now I have the bridge to Alex. Alex, looking forward to the overview from Finland. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me loud and clear?
We do.
Hey, hello. On my behalf, I'm Alex Ylenberger for ITS Finland, and today I will share a little bit about what we are doing here in Finland. And first of all, I would like to share something about our ITS Finland collaboration with Baltic and Scandinavian countries strengthens its role by forming a so-called Nordic Plus network. This partnership exemplifies a broader and more comprehensive approach to ITS, combining Nordic expertise, resources, and innovative ideas, and now includes Connect from the Netherlands. So the involvement of ITS Finland and Connect is such a network demonstrates their commitment and improving transport system, not just locally, but also a broader international level. This aligns with the global trend of adopting smart transportation and AI solutions to make travel safer, more efficient, and more environment friendly. And in here, my picture, I will show you that in the Nordic and in the Netherlands, we are top of this DESI, Digital Economy and Society Index measurement connectivity, digital skills, and digital business and digital public services. So our platforms in our countries and people living in the country are very used to use different kind of digital services. Also, the public services are there for them also. And AI is now coming. It's been here a long time, but now it's a hot topic. And so what it says here in the slide that I improves traffic systems by optimizing traffic flow, predicting connections, and changing public transportation and efficiency. and facilitating smarter, safer, and more sustainable urban mobility. So next, as a short, I will give the floor to our presentators of the day, Juho Kostiainen, Project Manager, Mobility Lab from Helsinki, and he's ready to perform his slides. And after that, we have Tapio Levä, Head of Data and AI Business from Telia Finland. So further on, I will give the floor to the Juho Kostiainen, and on my behalf, welcome everybody here, and use the chat for Q&A, and add your LinkedIn contact to chat, also to collaboration. Please, Juho, can you start your presentations? Are you ready?
Yes. I assume you can hear me, and hopefully
Yes,
now you can also see my slides.
Yes, we do.
Great. So good morning, everybody. I'm Juho Kostiainen. I come from Business Helsinki, and I'm the coordinator of Mobility Lab Helsinki, which is an activity we in Helsinki do together with Forum Virion Helsinki, the city's innovation agency. As a bit of a background to this approach, basically what we're trying to do in Helsinki is we're developing the city itself as a test bed for different thematic areas so that companies can test their things. We do this from a range of different points of views, from education technology to health and well-being, and sort of all kinds of big themes. And of course, the smart mobility aspect is represented by the Mobility Lab Helsinki. The approach we have for this is that we try to offer the city's resources, whether it's the infrastructure, streets, buildings, schools, and of course data, for companies, developers, researchers, and other innovators to use in their product and solution development and testing. So really in practice, enabling and supporting practical experiments in the urban space. The point of view here is primarily from the economic development side of things. So we really try to listen to the company's needs and ideas and support them, while of course at the same time trying to connect these things with the challenges and needs of the city. So kind of bridging the gap between the ideas and the needs and interests of the city. And at the same time, of course, hopefully generating some good solutions, services, and technologies that support the better life of the citizens as well. From a practical standpoint, it oftentimes means that we try to help the companies in figuring out where something could be tested, how it could be tested, where is it feasible, and where does it make sense? Where can we demonstrate some kind of impacts where power is available and so on. And we try to do this together with the companies and other stakeholders related to the solutions, whatever the use case might be, involving the right experts in the city organization or near the city organization. And of course, as one important angle, we try to involve and engage the citizens themselves, listening to their needs, their ideas, and importantly, getting their feedback on the tested solutions. So trying to get them to participate as test users, providing valuable insights into what is useful, what works, what is acceptable, and how to improve their lives. This ranges from really just going and talking to the people, as well as doing some surveys and communicating about the different pilots that are going on, and so on. The primary piloting area for smart mobility of the past few years has been the district of Jätkäsaari, which has the West Harbor located in there. It's one of the busiest passenger ports in the world, and being a sort of an island area with only a couple ways out of there, and with lots and lots of cars and trucks coming from Tallinn, it means that we have some congestion spikes in the area. And it's also a rapidly growing area, so there are some construction related traffic in the area, and the environment itself is changing occasionally as well. So there are interesting possibilities to test there. However, we're not limited to that area, of course, but rather we try to figure out where in Helsinki does it make the most sense to try some things. Basically, we have a lot of different ways of initiating new pilots or projects, but rather than going too deep into details, basically you could categorize these into a few different types. So occasionally we have open calls where we've defined challenges that we specifically seek solutions for. Like, for instance, yesterday one open call closed, focused on digital twins and looking for solutions to, for example, improve modeling of the street infrastructure and streets asset management, which is obviously an applicable topic for artificial intelligence solutions as well. But waiting for open calls from our side is not the key thing here, but rather the idea that companies with ideas can approach us at any time, and then we try to figure out whether it makes sense, whether the city can help in some ways, what the right stakeholders are, and how to go forward, and all the way to joint projects like EU projects and so on. Of course, Forum Virium especially is very active and successful in those. The range of things that we pilot is quite vast. Almost anything under the topic of smart mobility is within the scope of what we do. However, data and digital twins are the primary thing that we especially go for. And essentially, it means that while oftentimes there are some physical and very concrete, visible things, sometimes the lab environment is more like this. There are some sensors here and there, producing new kinds of data, testing the technologies themselves, and importantly, providing new opportunities to, for example, use AI, combine different data sources, and in general, just collecting data about the environment itself. So as I mentioned, digital twins for mobility is one of the key points that we're focusing on from our side, which means that new ways and new needs for data collecting and producing and using data about the traffic infrastructure, traffic flows, as well as the context and conditions, disruptions, weather, snow, curbsides. All of those are very interesting, and finding new ways to track that, collect the data, share the data, and better utilize it for different purposes, whether it's for robots or wheelchairs, rolling cages, is very much of interest for us. And related to AI specifically, we have a few projects that I'm just briefly going to mention here as examples. One more longer term project that has been going on and continues still is Jätkäsaari Smart Junction, where traffic radars, cameras, and such are installed on the intersections from the harbor to the motorway, providing other interested developers the data as well, but especially all the universities developing optimization solutions for the traffic lights. And hopefully next year we'll be able to control the traffic lights to really get the trucks out smoothly, while of course prioritizing the different needs eventually as well, whether it's giving pedestrians or bikes more priority over others. And as said, this is one good example of a case where the projects can provide good synergies. So any interested developers can have access to the radar data as well to use and develop their own optimization algorithms, for example. The idea here is that eventually some third-party traffic lights models could also be tested in the real system as well. Of course, other data sources are something that we're interested in, understanding how well they work, what the coverage is, what the quality is. So for example, a year ago, we looked into different floating vehicle data sources in Helsinki, finding that they are useful and good enough for a lot of different cases, a little bit variance between what source fits what kind of use case, but in general in Helsinki, the data is good. And at the same time, we were looking at different ways of analyzing what is happening in different senses. Of course, robots and autonomous solutions is something that has been developed for quite a long time. We've had autonomous shuttle buses since 2016 or so, almost every year in Helsinki, but over the past couple of years, especially logistics is something where we've been piloting these things. So, for example, here, delivery points coming to you rather than you having to go pick up your parcels from a post office or so, which is something that we're continuing at the moment with different kinds of use cases. Like over the summer, some construction sites got deliveries from a hardware store, getting their tools delivered. And at the moment, in more wintry conditions, we're continuing this with more B2C use cases. And actually, probably next week, we'll be together with Drover, Voy, and Vianova publishing a sort of white paper about the use of AI solutions for monitoring e-scooter user behavior. So figuring out how and where people are driving, if they're driving on the bike lanes as they should, or if they're on the sidewalks where they shouldn't be, and whether audio cues or other nudges can help guide people to the right places. And at the same time, providing possibilities for tracking and identifying potholes and other kinds of issues in the infrastructure, as well as the behavior of pedestrians and wrongly parked cars and so on. And just quickly, as I would be amiss if I didn't mention it, Helsinki is also coordinating one of the European digital innovation hubs called the Finnish AI region. And this is especially providing support for SMEs in AI. So there are a lot of logos in the bottom here representing the different partners involved, all basically providing plenty of different types of expertise and services to the SMEs, helping in just networking and training in the use of AI, as well as providing digital maturity assessments, helping the SMEs do roadmaps, and really just figure out how they could utilize AI in their own business. And this is something that if you're an SME and you're thinking about AI or haven't thought about AI in your business, you should take a look at this. Free services, always a good idea. That's the quick run through of what we do, but the key message here is that we're very much open and interested in new solutions and trying to test them in practice, seeing what works and what doesn't. Thanks.
Thank you, Juno, for your presentation and sharing the big themes of the Mobility Lab Helsinki, not only on the insights and the themes and examples. So thank you very much. And also, I'm pointing out the Finnish AI region. And if there are questions, I will expect them in the chat. There are not in right now. So thanks again. We'll have the bridge to Tapio. Hi, Tapio. I'm looking forward to your presentation and sharing your insights on optimizing mobility from Telia. The floor is yours, Tapio.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Great to be here. And yes, I come from Telia. And for those who do not know Telia, Telia is actually a Nordic-Baltic teleoperator, which means that our bread and butter is cellular and broadband connectivity and communication services. But we also provide versatile set of data and AI services, and that's what I will be talking here. I want to also mention that sustainability is very high on our own strategy. We want to reduce our own emissions. We want to foster circular economy. And then we want to also help customers to reduce their emissions. We can naturally do that with our own connectivity services, but we provide also these IoT, 5G, and mobile network data that can be used for that. And then let's move forward. Is it changing the slide? Yes, now. So we at Telia believe that future winners are those who best can utilize data and AI. It can, of course, be used to boost employee productivity, for example, by utilizing the large language models and overall democratizing the use of data, providing it to hands of every person, even those who work on the field. Data and AI can be used to improve process efficiency, and then it, of course, can also supercharge products to ensure they are competitive and so that you can gain competitive advantage. And the best companies also are able to create new business by using data and AI. Beyond these use cases, you can, of course, utilize the data and AI to improve sustainability. For example, to reduce emissions and waste from logistics, transportation, and manufacturing processes. And as a telco, we are actually in a unique angle to provide this. We are at the center of digitalization since connecting people, devices, and systems is critical for digitalization. But we also provide different services, IoT, industrial 5G solutions, and crowd insights to collect data from mobile network and with different kinds of sensors, and then provide actionable insights by using algorithms and AI. And now I will explain through a couple of examples how actually these services can help other companies to reduce their emissions and improve sustainability. We at Telia, we connect 3,800 buses in the Nordics with our smart public transport solutions. And with smart public transport solution, we mean that we have a set of services, a complete portfolio of services for driver, passengers, and fleet managers. Many vendors are having a spot solution for single of these use cases that you see on the slide, but our services actually work on the same platform, utilize the same gateway and same connectivity, which improves the availability of data and sharing that between, for example, the transport authorities organizing the traffic and the transport operators driving the buses in the area. And many of these services that we provide, they also help to reduce the CO2 emissions. And now we can see a couple of examples from those. First, an interesting service is called eco driving. This is not a new service as such. Different kinds of vehicles, they have been analyzing the driving patterns and providing feedback afterwards. How have you been driving? You probably are having, if you are having a new car, you are having that probably in your own personal car as well. But our eco driving, it provides real-time feedback on the driver's display screen, which gives which allows them to see how their acceleration, braking, and driving patterns affect the fuel performance and CO2 emissions. And when doing that, it also increases the driver's awareness of how they are driving. And typically, the economical way of driving is also the safe way to drive. So that improves the safety on the road. And the actual example that we see here is from Onnibus, which is a Finnish long-distance bus operator. And they have been using our eco driving solution for quite some time. And they have been able to, with our solution, you can reduce the fuel cost by 12% per year per vehicle. And for Onnibus, which is operating 60 buses, that means 270,000 liters of fuel savings per year. Then the second example comes from the vehicle climate management. And the vehicle climate management lets the bus operator eliminate unnecessary heating and costs by automating how the preheating is done. Here in the picture, you can see that buses are typically plugged in for quite long time periods, and without a clever solution, the heating, there's lots of unnecessary heating. But when you know the bus schedule, when they should be running out, you can actually optimize the heating and save a lot of heating energy. And one of our operator customers, which is driving city traffic, they have been able to save on their fleet of 300 buses 4.5 gigawatt hours of heating energy, which translates to almost €500,000. So this is good not only for the environment, but also for the economics, for the business of the bus operator, which is running on tight margins in a competed city traffic. Then we can move to a little bit different area, and this comes from the industrial 5G solutions service area. We provide a video analytics service called Telia Image Recognition, which that turns human visible events into digital data. It allows the real-time event tracking, actions, guidance, and alerts, and we deliver this data via APIs to our customers who can use them in their own processes. And this, we mainly, of course, I know that we saw a lot of good examples already in this webinar by using this in the, for example, in the city to analyze the city traffic. But this can be used, and we provide this mainly for manufacturing sites, logistics sites to optimize the processes within those. And again, the examples that we have been doing comes from the leading indoor logistics company in Finland, which is called Transval. It's a subsidiary of the Finnish Post, and they operate a lot of outsourced indoor logistics warehouses within manufacturing sites. And they wanted to take the video analytics solution into use in one of their warehouses, which is actually a buffer warehouse which feeds components to their manufacturing customers' production line. And it's important that in this kind of buffer stock, there is sufficient number of components available so that the production line keeps rolling. And of course, they have a strict SLA, service level agreement, with their the customer, the manufacturing company. And they had a challenge that they needed to manually observe the buffer stock. But now when they took our video analytics solution into use, they were able to automate the process, which frees time and removes the stock problems. And in the end, of course, it leads to reduced waste in the production process. And then we can move to the last piece of our portfolio, which is the Telia Crowd Insights. And with Crowd Insights, we mean the data that our mobile phones are all the time producing to the mobile network. And this data, when we anonymize, aggregate, and analyze it, can produce almost real-time insights on human mobility at scale. We can tell where the people are spending time, how they are moving, and how the traffic is flowing in the street, in the road network. And this can, of course, help to improve the transport system overall towards more sustainable one by, for example, improving public transport services or guiding in traffic system investments. It can also be used to plan locations of stores, service points, or, for example, electric vehicle charging fields. So supports lots of different kinds of planning use cases, which is important when we want to plan sustainable transport system. And I would have lots of examples for Crowd Insights, but I took this one from the road traffic side. And FinTraffic operates in Finland the traffic counting service. I believe that in all of the countries, also in Netherlands, it's important to calculate and understand the traffic volumes on the roads. In the main road network, they are of course having continuous automatic measurement points. But Finland is a large country. We have 78,000 kilometers of public roads, and many of the roads are smaller ones. And for those, continuous automatic measurement points are not financially sustainable approach. So traditionally, the traffic counting in Finland has been based on sample measurements performed 2 times per year and every 1 to 5 years for each road segment, depending on the road size. And typically, these short sample measurements have been combined with 5 general models. And that, of course, means that the accuracy of the traffic counting is not very good. But We had a good innovation project and R&D project, and now Fintraffic is using our new traffic counting service in production. It still uses the roadside measurements and models, but we have been adding the crowd insights data that tells about the human mobility on the roads. Because the human mobility is not same as the car volumes, it cannot produce the exact traffic volumes, but it produces this kind of seasonal variation pattern, which is unique to each road segment. Now we have more than 10,000 different seasonal variation patterns, when earlier we had only 5 general patterns. And this improves the quality of the data while also reducing the costs. And the cost reduction comes because the need for the physical road traffic measurement has been reduced. And also our data indicates in which roads the traffic volumes have been changing a lot. So you can target those roadside measurements better. Finally, let's look a little bit into the future. We see that the 5G is the future of logistics. And we at Telia are actively developing it. This 5G will be utilized on road, sea, air, or in logistics and manufacturing sites. And of course, those operations are typically critical, real time, so they require predictive and robust high quality connectivity. And what we do here is that we have been developing 5G already more than 5 years, and now the latest developments are happening in the project called North Star, which is co-funded by EU. And this is interesting for the logistics and transportation sector because we are actually building a 5G corridor from Stockholm to Åland Islands between Sweden and Finland, and continuing to Turku and Helsinki in Finland. And in this transport corridor, 5G corridor, we implement the latest technological developments of the 5G, which allows for different kinds of use cases, whether it's the testing the connected and autonomous vehicles, or utilizing accurate mobile network positioning, or for example, these video analytics solutions. Thank you. That was the presentation, and if you have any questions, please.
Thank you, Tapio, for your Telia presentation and on your insight for future winners with data and AI. Thanks so much. Looking at the chats, just checking because there are no questions left in the chat, I think, Alex. So I can wrap up this webinar.
Yes, please do so. There was something about is the analysis results available for sharing Boen and Wischroot, City of Amsterdam? Yeah. There was one question like this, and of course we have this poll that you can answer. Please do so if you see it. Where did you contact us? And of course, we like to have little feedback from our event. So
you already see the poll. Yeah. So
yes.
On the presentation of the City of Amsterdam, Maria is already in contact with Boot, just to ask the questions just by email.
Good. So please send your feedback also about the event, and I will do like this. And Maria, please do the wrap up.
Okay, it's now time for the wrap up. It took us a little bit longer due to some technical problems, and it's always funny with being technical companies and still have some update themes problems. But thank you so much. And I want to, as Alex and I want to express our sincere gratitude for all the participants, and a special thank you to all of our presenters on Max, Boon, Wischroot, René, Alex, Tapio, and Juho for sharing their expertise. And for those willing to connect any further, Alex will share the presentation and possibly everybody who was in it. Remember to stay in tune for upcoming webinars, because this is the second one in our webinar series for ITS Finland and ITS Netherlands. We are planning for having a trip to Tampere in June, and in April we will hope to see everybody at Intertraffic Amsterdam, and let's continue the conversation there. Lisa is for us to say happy Santa Claus for all the Dutch people and a happy Independence Day for all the Finnish people tomorrow. Looking forward to our next webinar for meeting up live. Thank you very much, and bye-bye for now.